A newly elected pope can technically choose any name he wishes. What name were you hoping for? This actually happened with popes named John. John I through 13 were recorded without error. John XV is where things get weird. He was made pope by the Holy Roman Emperor rather than by election and was deposed 8 months later and imprisoned for 4 months until he died. Now, there's a book in the Vatican that lists all of the popes in chronological order and the length of their papacy, and for whatever reason, John XIV's papacy and imprisonment were listed separately, making it appear that there was a pope named John immediately after John XIV. This was compounded by the fact that the next legitimate pope after John XIV was, confusingly, John XV, who did correctly take the number 15, as did all the popes named John up to and including John XIX. Now, for a time frame for ref, John XIV was deposed in 984 AD. John XCIX died in 1032, so they got through those John numbers pretty fast. Even an anti-pope that got to keep the number for some reason, John XV, got into the list, but it would take over 200 years until 1276 for the next Pope John to be elected, and he noticed this error of a Pope John after John XIV, but before John XV, who, remember, was really just John XIV in prison rather than a separate pope altogether, and so thought John XV through 99 should have been John XVI through XDX, and so he took the name and number John XXI rather than John XD. So there never was a John XD, but we're not done yet. Following John XXI's misnumbering, there were 3 more Pope Johns: John XXIII in the 1300s, John XXIII in the 1400s, who ruled from Pisa, and then John XXIII, elected 543 years later in 1958, who picked John XXIII, citing 22 popes of indisputable legitimacy, despite the fact that John XVI was an anti-pope against the considered legitimate Gregory V, and John X didn't even exist. So there were really 21 legitimate Pope Johns, not 22, but he even fucked with that because he specifically chose 23 as his number rather than 24, so the Pisan Pope John XXIII is now considered an anti-pope against the now legitimate Gregory V, making John XXIII the 21st legitimate Pope John.